Welcome to A1 Talk. Technology as a force for good.
I'm thrilled to be with you guys, and I do have a very optimistic view of what is possible. And I love Alejandro's opening and all the things that he points out, and I'm going to probably hit on very similar points as I go through. But the opening slide, actually, I'm showing you is an invitation for what I created on New Year's Day. I started January 1st, 2021, with a 90-minute global Zoom event that was dedicated to this conversation about building a better next. And this idea, again, that the visionary starts with a clean sheet of paper and reimagines the world. And that is the moment that we are in. So on New Year's Day, we discussed the idea of building a better life. What do buildings and life look like? A better AI, better work, better humans. And I'll give a touch of that today. But the question is sort of what is creating the conditions for this, and what is sort of driving and shaping what I would call the next economy. There's so much happening at the same time. When you talk to the people who are building the future, right? The technologists, the engineers, the scientists, the designers, the entrepreneurs, the visionary executives, and we ask them how far along we are in this stack of advancing the technologies, I will again agree with Alejandro that we are still in such early days. We are just beginning to understand what the potential of all these technologies are. And if when you ask them again how far along we are, they will usually say about 1%. I'm not sure where A1 was sit on that, but we're really early. Again, we've just, over the last year, deepened our penetration of existing technologies, but we've barely seen the innovation that is right around the corner as all of these things start to converge and emerge and create completely new solutions. So the question is, in a moment of such dynamic change, where so much is possible and only bits of it can we even begin to envision, how do we prepare for that? How do we plan for that? How do we staff for that? How do we train for that? How do we know what investments to make? There are a lot of questions that come up as we look on the horizon. So the question is, how do we navigate our way there? We're in a place of tremendous learning and experimenting. So the question is, how do I navigate unknown terrain when I no longer have a map? And I would say that we use a compass. This has been mine. I have used these two questions as my strategic compass for all the work that I've done for many, many years. It has never failed me. So the first is, what does the future need and expect of us? That's a lot of what I'll talk about, and I'm sure Brian and others will talk about today. What does the future need and expect? And then what are we in a unique position to create and contribute to that future? And that's as an individual, that's as a team, that's as an organization, that's as an industry. I would argue it's as a nation, as a humanity. Right? We're all in a position to create something that is really, really valuable, and we can look at it through three lenses. Part of it's as a professional. This is why we come to these experiences. We want to be able to know that we're stewarding our resources and our time and everything that we're given effectively. But we're also humans that are going through this. We've certainly made that very, very visible in the past year. We're mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and community members. And so we're being impacted by these shifts also individually. And increasingly, we're being asked to think about this as a member of society, which is part of what makes this moment in time, again, so extraordinary, right? The boundaries between these things become more and more permeable, more and more passable. So the idea that we actually, with the actions and the choices that we make, have tremendous impact, and they carry tremendous responsibility. This is the book that I just read, Alejandro and others have mentioned, which is about leadering. And it's really this invitation to think about how we create a mindset that allows us to build the future that we want to build. We cannot take the old industrial mindset and bring it into the 21st century. I think it is a dangerous thing to do, right? The 20th century mindset was built in a very distinct way to manage resources differently than we are in the 21st. The way I describe it is that in the past, we really worked with leadership. Leadership was a very intentional approach, a system, if you will, that was designed to be static and closed and hierarchical. It was designed to be able to root out all variability so that we would be able to efficiently focus on scale and growth, right? It was a noun, it's a position. Instead, we're moving to a place, again, with such dynamic change, so many questions that need to be answered, so many possibilities that are sitting right there at our fingertips. And we need a verb. We need to move into something that's much more dynamic, right? We need one that is designed to be adaptive and caring and inclusive, and designed specifically to support continuous innovation, experimentation, iterative design, right? Empathy, in order to create long-term sustainable value. That's really the goal at this moment. We want to, again, not just look at this by month or quarter by quarter, or even year by year. We want to be able to think about this over decades, or even over generations, as we look forward, again, to the power that we will have to redesign and reshape and rethink. What is the role of business in a shifting society when we have both cultural shifts and technological shifts? And I argue that we're shifting from this idea of corporate social responsibility or making money here and sort of transferring a little bit over there to really thinking a lot more about the social license to operate. The quickest way I can make the definition clear is instead of thinking about how we spend the money we make and not really considering how we make that money, we're actually going to think a lot more now about how we make the money. Every business choice we make should be oriented to creating value. Like, what is the shape of our society going to look like with all of this? I will argue again that we are leaving an industrial era. I think that saying that we're heading to the fourth industrial revolution is actually a misnomer. I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps us prepare well enough for the dramatic change that we're heading into. I will argue again, we're heading into what I describe as a productivity revolution. If I can 3D print a house for a fraction of the cost that I can build a house for, imagine all the other things that I could do with such, again, huge productivity gains. When we think again about robotics and how it's going to enter our workforce, when we think about the distributed web and what we will do with cryptocurrencies, I mean, there's so much that's going to happen at an exponential rate that also allows for a really different way of thinking about how we shape society, how we self-manage teams, how we think about regenerative solutions to things. Like there's just this great leap that we get to go make into the productivity era. I think it's a very, very exciting time. There's a really great quote that I usually close this with, which is from Marianne Williamson, that says, "Your playing small doesn't serve the world." That's why my company's called Play Big. It is not about scale and growth anymore. It is about impact. It is about building a caring and thoughtful and inclusive and extraordinary world in which we distribute this productivity that we are going to be able to generate in really considered and I think empathetic and compassionate ways. We have this opportunity again to rebuild everything, and I am excited to be in this world and in this moment and with you all and with technologists who care so much about technology for good. So thank you for all you guys are doing to help build a better next.